welcome to the Economy of Trust. I'm Victoria Pereira Usher, Vice President of Marketing Communications for JCB Europe. I'm here in the heart of London with a panel crammed full of incredible guests from across the financial services sector, alongside our host, Ali Patterson. They'll be talking trust between merchants, acquirers, card issuers, card members, retailers, customers, and everybody beyond our ecosystem. Why? Well, at JCB, we believe in the power of omotenashi, the art of customer care, service, and relationship building. Through this lens, we see trust as a common thread that drives better customer experiences that unlock new market opportunities and help businesses navigate the necessary but often very messy world of global compliance and financial services. So thanks for tuning in. Let's get into it. Ali, over to you.
Thanks, Victoria. For the folks at home, I'm Ali Patterson, founder, CEO, and editor-in-chief at FF News. And joining me today are, well, I'm going to let them introduce themselves. So starting with you, Giulia, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Ali. So I am Giulia Montagnaro, and I work at Nexi, which is the leading paytech in Europe. We operate both in acquiring and issuing. And I personally manage all, let's say, commercial relationship with card schemes for the Italian market.
I'm Darren Woodward, look after the relationships with the card schemes for Dojo. Dojo are a UK fintech, looks after the experience economy, so bars, hospitality, restaurants, making sure that we provide them with the best solutions they can have to have the best experience of accepting card payments in the UK. So that's me, and that's Dojo. Looking forward to the talk on trust.
Thank you to Ali and JCB for having me. My name is Nabil Manji. I work at a company called WorldPay. For those that aren't familiar, WorldPay is the world's largest merchant acquirer or payment processor if you don't want to use industry lingo. We enable merchants large and small in over 40 countries to accept payments from their consumers. We work across pretty much all verticals, offer a variety of payment methods and also services to help businesses better manage payments, things like fraud and risk management, reporting and analytics. And my role at the company is wearing various hats, but particularly managing our relationships with the card networks to ensure that we're offering the latest and greatest experience to our joint customers, that their consumers can pay the way that they want to pay and have a great experience.
Hello, thank you, Ali. Great to seeing you all. My name is Thomas Heigl. I'm SVP at JCB International. I have been with this company, with JCB for 25 years now. And my mission, our mission here in Europe is to achieve establish efficient acceptance for our card members coming from our Asian issuing countries. I have 3 teams that collaborate with me to achieve this mission, and I look after about 20 countries plus. So great to seeing you all here, and thank you for coming, and look forward to having a nice talk with you.
Excellent. Thanks all. So we're here talking about trust and how that underpins so much of the payments industry today. I want to focus first on something crucial in today's retail landscape: customer experience and payment experience, reducing friction and such. What role does trust play in driving better user experiences? And I'm going to go to you first, Giulia.
So I would say that trust is crucial when talking about customer experience, and it depends on the way we think of trust. So if we think of trust from the consumer end, for consumers it's crucial that whenever they engage in a transaction, that their personal data and financial data is protected. So if I have to buy something online, I want to make sure that if I put my credit card details, no one is going to steal from me. So a company that is able to give me this security is building trust. If we look at the merchant's perspective, instead a merchant, in order to have trust, probably will think, okay, I want to be able to, let's say, receive my funds from settlement in time. So a company that, an acquirer in this case, that is, let's say, settling funds with no delay, is building trust with the merchant. Or again, even here, support also for merchants. It's important, that the acquirers give them support. What if, like, you have a restaurant and at peak time you're not able to make your consumers pay? That's a big issue, no? So it's important that the acquirer is there to support the merchant. So again, this is how trust is built for merchant.
Absolutely, and sticking with kind of that example around the restaurant, Darren, can I get kind of your viewpoint on this?
Yeah, certainly. And Julia, I think is right. It's both sides of the consumer and the merchant where you need to get trust. And I like to look at it at a transaction level. And so a card holder, a consumer needs to have confidence in the card they've got in their hand. And JCB do that by being a card member and the individuals selected to get that card, and they've got trust in that brand. At the same time, when they go and spend on the card, they need to have trust of where they're going to spend and that it's going to be secure. And it's an experience that they are going to trust in. And then on the merchant side, they need to have trust with the acquirer they've got.
Excellent. Nabil, can I get your thoughts here around trust?
Yeah, I think especially in today's environment, data security, like Julia mentioned, is paramount. And so when I, as a consumer, use my card, I want to make sure that my card details are being captured securely, whether it's in person with a terminal like Dojo, or whether it's online, putting my payment information in a form. And I think for merchants in particular as well, if a consumer has a data issue, they'll often point the finger at the merchant, say like this merchant, had a data breach or an issue. They don't necessarily point to, the JCB, or they may not even know who the acquirer is. And so I think merchants rely a lot on the issuers and the acquirers to make them look good in terms of not having those issues. So that's where things like really robust fraud and risk management solutions, PCI compliance solutions, using things like tokenization so that you don't have to constantly type in your card number, is all about creating that security and trust. I think, when it comes to industries that demand trust, financial services is probably number one, or at least in the top three. And so I think as a company in this space, if you don't have trust, you don't have a business.
Perfect. Thomas?
Yeah, like Nabil said, and also Darren and Julia. So again, trust is everything. Sorry for using your words, but because what is important really, it is the payment experience for the card members, for our customers, for all our customers. They just wanna enjoy and they wanna enjoy the shopping. That's the real experience for them. The payment is just something which is happening in the background, and that should be smooth and frictionless. So the customer doesn't really care what is happening in the background, what is happening in the value chain, what is happening with her personal data. The customer is trusting us that we keep that, we maintain that, we have the integrity, and we have the security, and therefore trust is so important, especially in our industry. Yeah.
Looking to the future, how do you see things changing in the next 2 to 3 years in terms of the customer experience and the payment experience, Julia?
Well, I see a couple of trends that have already been here for a while now, but I see them, let's say, evolving even more. And those would be contactless. It's been here for a while now, but I see that scaling up. Omnichannel, so basically consistent and integrated payment experiences across the mobile channels, online and in store. This is already happening, but I would say that again, this is getting even more and more traction with the way we move on. And another important trend I see, which is something that has been happening for a while now in the U.S. market, especially in the food business and in the hospitality, is software and payments integration through ISV. So this is something that we see in that market, and we believe that is gonna. I mean, it's in Europe already, but I feel that is gonna gain traction in the next 2 to 3 years. And it's going to become like pretty relevant.
I want to take what you said there about the US and the different payment methods, and of course what was said around the different subscription models and how there's a certain level of localization. And I want to look east because customer expectations are growing globally. So I'm fascinated to know how you build these cultural nuances into the payments experience. And Thomas, with your JCB hat, I kind of want your take on this.
Yeah, it's. Maybe I should mention omotenashi here, which is the ethos of customer care. And that is what we would like to bring to Europe, this ethos of customer care, because that's also the expectation of our card members. Japan is one of a country with the highest service levels. And our card members want to have the same experience here in Europe. And we support our partners to achieve that together with us. We share our experience, and by doing so, we all can generate business, and that's the thing really.
Looking at some of these cultural nuances when it comes to payments, Nabil, with WorldPay, I'm very curious as to your take on this, because you have customers pretty much everywhere.
Sure, yeah. So culture manifests itself in many ways, and one way is through habits, and we all have payment habits and expectations when we're transacting. So one example is, if you go to a restaurant in the US, generally tipping is expected for service. Whereas if you go to a restaurant in Europe or in Asia, that might be not expected, or maybe even some places considered rude. And so as you think about the payment solution for a restaurant in the US versus a restaurant in a region where tipping is not expected or not wanted, you need to think about what payment methods can support tipping. And by that I mean, you get charged one amount for the bill, but then you can increase it to account for the tip. So things like that impact payment choice and solutioning. Similarly, pre-COVID, most businesses accepted cash as a form of payment. So as we think about building, point of sale payment solutions and integrating them with the software that the business is using, the ability to accept cash was typically required. But fast forward to today, particularly in parts of Asia, cash is now considered unhygienic, and many businesses don't want to accept it. And so now when we think about the payment solution for a business that doesn't want cash, that complexity or that part of the solution doesn't need to be there anymore.
Julia, need another kind of real world example from you.
And next, something we have noticed is that, for example, Asian consumers, they really, to build their trust, they really like to see their logo, no? Because imagine maybe you're an Asian consumer traveling to Italy. We have lots of tourists in Italy. And okay, maybe you think, okay, maybe JCB here is not accepted. So if you see the logo, you're actually reassured, and okay, this is trust, and I can pay with my card. And so maybe this instead is not important for like an American customer, European customer, because maybe you give for granted that you can pay with Visa or MasterCard. But so this, which might be something maybe understated, is actually really relevant.
It's a big thing. It's really a big thing, yeah.
Alongside all this brilliant creative thinking around customer experience and the cultural nuances is that ever-present spectra of compliance. So how do you balance the need for compliance, for security, with that want for frictionless user and payment experience? And Nabil, I'm going to go to you first with this.
Sure. Yeah, I think this is where technology is making all the difference, and there's been a lot of improvement, specifically in the last 3 to 5 years. So you and Julia spoke earlier about strong customer authentication, which is one of the key kind of security focused mandates in the UK and Europe. And when this was rolled out a few years ago, pretty much every company adopted a similar approach where if you're a consumer buying something online from a new merchant for the first time, typically you'd get texted or emailed a one-time code, or you'd have to log into your banking app and approve the transaction. Now, that's a pretty antiquated experience. It's compliant, it met the requirements of the rule, but it's not great to be going through a creatively designed checkout experience and then go through this decade-old authentication experience. And so in the last few years, we've seen a lot of companies trying to solve that creatively, create a better consumer experience where you don't have that distraction step, so to speak, but still meet the compliance requirements. And what they've done is pretty cool, where they collect various data points as you're going through the checkout, such as, are you checking out or shopping at the same time or on the same days that you normally do? Are you holding your phone in the same hand that you normally do? Are you typing at the same speed that you normally type? Are you at the same IP address and using the same device that you normally use? And so they collect, these data points and many others, and they basically come up with a score or a likelihood, and they say, hey, this is very likely to be Nabil making this purchase. We are confident enough in this such that we don't need to send him a one-time code or have him log into his banking app. We feel like those data points have authenticated him. And so as the compliance requirements come out, they obviously are well-intentioned. They drive consumer protection or whatever other end benefit. But there are new ways to solve them that actually in some ways improve the experience in the sense that it gets rid of that step, but actually might result in a better outcome. It's probably more difficult to replicate my behavior across those 40 data points than it would be to hack into my email address and get that one-time code. So you've created a better experience, but it's actually more secure in many ways as well.
100%, it's having your cake and eating it too. Darren, I want to go to yourself around this, around compliance.
Well, compliance, I think, is driven a lot by the card schemes and the regulator. So it's making sure that you know, we deploy chip and PIN for EDS, strong customer authentication, contactless, PCI, the list goes on and on and on. But generally, it's making sure that you can deploy them as you need to deploy them, try and make it as frictionless as possible. But they're there for good reason. So they're there to protect the consumers, protect the merchants, protect acquirers, and it's there for the ecosystem. But I think it's really just making sure that you can deploy them in the best way. And, you know, like contactless, is there ways that you can have wearables that are just not your watch? Whether it can be a bit more sexy in some of the jewellery or something like that. So I think there's something to come from there. But that's the type of thing, it's a necessary evil, and I think we're all behind having to do that.
Julia, how do you at Nexi walk that tightrope of user experience on one side and then compliance on the other?
Well, that's a very tough question. I would say the answer is massive investments in technology to basically help find the right balance between maintaining compliance and at the same time providing final merchants and consumer with a user-friendly experience. So the key challenge here for us, I think, is maintaining compliance and making huge investments in it without diverting too much funds from innovation and focus on customer experience, I would say.
It's a really good point around focusing the funds.
I want to add something on this. You know, a lot of people you talk to in the payment space, they'll say like the holy grail of a checkout experience is a frictionless experience. I don't 100% agree with that. There's this concept that I learned about a few years ago called desirable friction. And essentially the concept is, you know, if I'm about to send a massive payment for something, like maybe putting a down payment on a house or buying a car or a piece of jewelry or whatever it is, I don't know that I want to be able to just type in the details, hit send, and not be challenged or have something double check me, right? Because once that money is sent, it's hard to recover, right? And similarly, if I was able to transact just by typing in a card number online, you know, no security code check, no address verification, no secure customer authentication, that would make it pretty easy for someone to just like snap a photo of my card and go off and do what they want, right? So I think like people who are striving for zero friction maybe might not actually be aligned with what consumers want, whereas just the right amount of friction to build that trust and give them that sense of security, but not make it a complete free-for-all.
Yeah, I agree with that. So I think in Dojo we've got an expression is we're creating the tools and the technology to turn transactions into meaningful relationships, which then builds you on to trust back to the beginning of the conversation. So I think there's certainly a part in that is how quick you want to do it, but if you do it, in a way that everyone benefits, and it's either a quick in and out of a transaction, but when you get to a high value transaction, whether it's an international tuition payment or a deposit on a house, then I agree with you. I think sometimes you need to get more comfort into
you want the triple check. Yeah,
I think finding the right balance, right? Because I mean, in the end, you have to keep in mind that you have to make user experience for the final consumer intuitive and user-friendly, because I mean, okay, maybe getting a biometric or a quick code, but something easy. Otherwise, I mean, if you get like, okay, you have to put like this code, this other code, then wait the 3 seconds and jump on the table. I mean, you'll get lost, and in the end, you lose frictionless 100%.
It's good for the merchants too, because you know, if a payment goes wrong, the overhead of dealing with that from an operational perspective is complex and costly, right? So benefits the merchants
desirable,
too.
deliberate level of friction.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Perfect. Excellent. Thank you all very much for your insights there. Very good to have solid, usable, tangible examples. And again, thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ali.
Thank you.
Thank you.